the A-Team, won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Total Recall.
Yeah, man. Oh, going to Mars, baby.
Yeah, get your ass to Mars.
I'm getting to Mars.
It does one of my favorite things ever in movies where they actually say the title during the movie.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
He's going to get Total Recall.
What?
Bum, bum, bum.
Take yourself back to 1990.
Yeah.
February 14th, the pale blue dot photograph of Earth is sent back from the Voyager 1 probe after completing its primary mission from around 3.5 billion miles away.
Beecher. I am Beecher. That is Beecher. We must stop it from this boring movie. The most boring movie ever made.
Yeah.
Beecher. Self-destruct.
That's the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I think they're doing like a
another
thing.
One? Oh,
like
a director's cut kind of thing?
Yeah, but they're doing like what they... like fixing the effects and doing stuff to make it
not
so
awful.
Boring. God, it was so boring, man. Like, it should have been called Star Trek. Worse than watching paint dry.
It's the only franchise where this is the only one I've not seen.
Well, you're not missing it.
Yeah. February 28th, Greville Wynn, famed British businessman who turned into a spy and courted a Russian GRU agent and was caught during World War II before being traded for another Soviet spy, dies from throat cancer.
Aw. Hey, do you think the character Gru got his name from GRU?
I think it's a reference, yeah.
I thought so, too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty clever.
You are. You're like Sherlock Holmes, man.
Yeah.
April 24th, the Hubble Space Telescope is launched aboard Space Shuttle Discovery. By December, it would be sending back high-res photos of Mars.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. June 1st, Total Recall is released in theaters.
That's
literally
40% of his dialogue.
I would say half.
Oh, wow, you're being generous.
Yeah.
I'm being generous.
You're being generous, yeah. It totally is. I want to do a drinking game with this movie where every time he grunts, you have to take a shot.
And you have to make the sound.
And you will die.
Exactly.
So, Total Recall starts from famed author Philip K. Dick. He had his 23-page short story, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, published in the April 1966 edition of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. Dick's story depicts a meek clerk on Earth named Quail who visits Recall Incorporated to receive a memory implant of being a secret agent on Mars. However, the process uncovers his true identity as a secret agent who previously visited Mars and whose death will bring about an alien invasion.
Cool. And we were talking about like Quail, the name, but I think for a meek clerk, I think Quail's a good name because it gives him kind of a weakness.
Yeah.
But you can't call big old Arnie Quail.
No.
Plus, I think it was because of the vice president.
That was part of it. But it definitely, during rewrites, it definitely got changed.
Potato.
Yeah, it was, I mean, kind of, I guess because he came in 88. Anyway, Quail just wasn't a strong name. I mean, that at the end of the day. Dick wrote 44 novels and about 121 short stories over his career, most of which appeared in science fiction magazines during his lifetime. He had found little commercial success until his alternative history novel, The Man in the High Castle, published in 1962, earned him acclaim, including a Hugo Award for Best Novel when he was 33.
Nice.
Did you ever watch the show?
I started to.
I saw the first season, about half the second season, and I haven't finished it. It obviously goes much further than the novel does.
Sure. It looks interesting.
It's good.
It's one of those things that kind of got lost.
Yeah. It's good, though. It's really good. Over a dozen of Dick's stories have been adapted into feature films since Blade Runner was released in 1982. The development of Total Recall began in 1974 when producer Ronald Shusett purchased the adaptation rights to We Can Remember It For You wholesale for $1,000.
Nice. Way to go, Shusett.
Shusett had found some success with creating the story for the film W, also titled I Want Her Dead and W is the Mark of Death, in 1974, starring Twiggy.
Nice. She was a big model.
She was.
She is not her fault, but a lot of people credit her with the waif look and women's unrealistic body image issues.
Expectations, yeah.
She was just a skinny girl.
She was.
It wasn't
She
her
was.
fault, but yeah.
She just
that
got very
started
popular.
the whole thing, yeah.
Yeah. Renaming it Total Recall, Shusett worked with Dan O'Bannon to write the script. O'Bannon had found some success with the feature film Dark Star in 1974. Dark Star was John Carpenter's feature directorial debut.
Yeah.
Yeah. O'Bannon, who also served as editor, production designer, and visual effects supervisor on Dark Star, also appeared in the movie as Sergeant Pinback.
Of course he did.
Yeah. Well, because that's the way everybody was in the movie.
I don't think I saw that one.
No, I think it's on Amazon Prime. I looked it up, and it is available somewhere.
No, I should watch it.
Yeah, I've never seen it either. O'Bannon exhausted the existing short story material from We Can Remember It For You wholesale rather quickly, and the short story's abrupt ending meant that he could only write 30 pages, effectively only the first act, and an original second and third act were needed for the movie. It was then that O'Bannon suggested sending Quaid to Mars. Shusett and O'Bannon disagreed over the third act, the former wanting something more dramatic.
More dramatic than going to Mars?
Yeah. O'Bannon's ending revealed the handprint on the alien machine as Quaid's, who is a replica of the original, and placing his hand on it grants him total memory recall.
Total Recall!
O'Bannon described the filmed ending from 1990 as lame.
That's lame, man. This is totally lame.
Which I don't really understand. It's a great ending.
The real ending or this
the
ending?
real ending.
Oh, well, he's not... This isn't the...
No, this is what he
replicate.
wanted.
Right.
And he didn't like the way it turned out.
Oh, that it was like
Because
an
he was
alien...
not the last writer to work on this.
Yeah, of course.
No, I mean, it took 16 years to get produced.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Dick read the script prior to his death in 1982, and according to O'Bannon, very enjoyed it. Very enjoyed it. That doesn't make any
Very
sense.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Although studios deemed Shusett and O'Bannon's script an ambitious and brilliant idea, it was essentially considered unfilmable, in part because of the extensive special effects and high budget that would be required.
And Shusett demanded that they shoot on location in Mars.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they're like, well, we haven't even been there yet. And he's like, I demand it.
Well, you're going to get me there.
I'm like, this is going to cost billions of dollars. It'll be worth it.
Get
Trust
my
me.
ass to Mars.
We're going to get Jimmy Kahn. He's going to be in it. It'll be worth it.
Shusett and O'Bannon moved on to collaborating on the script for the science fiction horror film Alien, the success of which earned Shusett a development deal at Walt Disney Studios. He pursued the Total Recall project at the studio, initially budgeted at $20 million, but the idea did not progress because issues with the third act could not be resolved.
The damn third act.
Yeah. The project was sold to Dino De Laurentiis' De Laurentiis Entertainment Group in 1982. De Laurentiis considered a number of directors for the film. Richard Rush, who received a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Director for his film The Stuntman in 1980.
That was a great movie.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Is that Peter O'Toole?
I think so. Don't quote me on that. He also directed Freebie and the Bean.
Yeah,
a police
Freebie and the Bean.
buddy comedy drama starring Alan Arkin and Jimmy Caan in 1974.
Freebie and the Bean.
I had to mention Freebie and the Bean, which I still have not seen, and I really need to see.
You're lost, baby.
I know. Louis Teague was considered. He directed Cujo in 1983 and The Jewel of the Nile in 1985. Russell Mulcahy, who directed Highlander in 1986.
Your favorite movie.
And Fred Skepsey, who directed Iceman in 1984 and Roxanne in 1987.
I like to call him Fred Shapepsi.
Shapepsi? That's not how it's pronounced
That's
at
how
all.
I pronounce it.
De Laurentiis eventually chose David Cronenberg in 1984. We came real close to having a David Cronenberg Total Recall.
It'd be so fleshy and gross.
It's already pretty fleshy.
Yeah,
and
but it would have been
gross.
so much more fleshy, and everything would look like kind of like a butthole.
But it makes sense because a lot of that stuff came from Cronenberg's scripts. He had just come off releasing 2 films in 1983, Videodrome and The Dead Zone, the latter of which scored very well at the box office.
Yeah, you forget that he did The Dead Zone.
It's such a good movie.
Yeah, and it doesn't have any fleshy, gross
No.
things.
Although
there's some gross stuff.
the guy, the suicide in it, the cop
With
killer,
the
the killer
scissors?
killing himself is one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's done so well. But I totally forget that he directed that. Yeah. Cronenberg was unfamiliar with Dick's work, but was interested in the script. Problems remained with the third act, and Cronenberg spent the next year writing 12 separate drafts. In his finished script, Quaid's true identity is Chairman Mandrell, the dictator of Earth, who, following a failed assassination attempt on his life, is convinced by Mars Administrator Cohagen to confront the organization that suppressed his memory.
Huh?
Yeah, it's confusing. Cohagen later reveals that Quaid is an inconsequential government worker chosen to play the role of Mandrell to facilitate Cohagen usurping control of the Earth. Quaid defeats Cohagen and assumes the identity of Mandrill, and everybody's happy, I guess.
Okay.
Cronenberg was responsible for the mutant characters, including Kuato, and further developed an idea by Shusett about mutant animals known as Ganzables in the Martian sewers, but he turned them into camels.
My name is Quato, and I like to get blotto. Camels, I would have liked to see those camels.
It really, when you see the final product in 1990, it's really obvious that Cronenberg had a heavy hand in creating that stuff because they're so slimy and gross.
But it's like Cronenberg light. It's not quite
It is.
It's like, they didn't quite go full Cronenberg.
No. Cronenberg found himself at odds with Shusett regarding the tone, as Shusett and De Laurentiis did not want it to be as serious as the science fiction film Blade Runner, which was released in 1982, an adaptation of Philip K. Dick novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which was a fantastic movie.
Yeah. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Do you prefer the original theatrical cut or the director's cut?
I was a Blade Runner. That's a guy that goes after robots.
So
it was a tough day in Los Angeles, rainy and gross. I love the original when it came out because I loved the movie. Yeah. But no.
Once you saw it without the awful VO.
Yeah. It was, when it wasn't awful, it just was
didn't,
superfluous. It was just, basically, they tried to idiot-proof the movie, and that it didn't help. I think the final director's ultimate cut or whatever.
Right.
That's the one.
Yeah, for sure. Shusett described Cronenberg's work as bringing the film back to Dick's original short story, whereas they wanted an adventure closer to
Raiders of the Lost Ark Go to Mars.
Yeah, every good executive just shoehorn an idea into a pre-existing idea.
Hey, that's how you sell stuff.
Cronenberg did not want to make that film and chose to quit.
Yeah, I think a lot of, because he didn't really do anything mainstream after this, I don't think.
Not really.
I mean, it was mostly his just weird little movies that are awesome.
He did stuff that he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. I think he got out of the Hollywood factory machine and just kind of
but after this he did The Fly.
Right, but I think I would say The Fly wasn't
like a
Hollywood. I mean, it was a horror movie, but it wasn't like a mainstream. It was pretty gross.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying in regards to being independently produced or being backed by a studio.
Well, I think it was his slow walk away from Hollywood.
I think it was one of those. The executives knew when they signed him up that they were going to have to do things his way, and it was kind of like, look, I can walk away from this.
Sure,
like it's fine. So he was also frustrated by the casting of Richard Dreyfuss in the lead role.
What? Hold on a second. Everybody loves Richard Dreyfuss. It was going to be great as Quaid.
I cannot imagine someone more opposite than Arnold Schwarzenegger in this role.
Oh, hey, Quato. Good at you.
Dreyfuss had requested further rewrites to have Quaid reflect the everyman persona he had established in his previous films rather than the action focus of the Shusett O'Bannon story.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to see. Some regular schlub.
If they did a short based off of the original story, Dreyfuss would be perfect.
Sure.
But it's not the movie they were making.
No.
Cronenberg had wanted to cast William Hurt as the lead instead and focus more on the concepts of memory and identity.
It would have been interesting.
Yeah.
It would have been like Altered States.
Well, and eventually he would explore these same concepts in Existenz in 1999, which is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's great.
Christopher Reeve and Jeff Bridges were also considered for Quaid during this time.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges.
Was it? They both, I mean,
they'd be great.
Better choice than Richard Dreyfuss, but
hey, no need to be nasty.
I love Richard Dreyfuss. There's just certain things he should not do.
Yeah.
This was one of them.
Like cocaine.
Well, yes. De Laurentiis had wanted to reduce the budget by eliminating Mars entirely, but Shusett and O'Bannon dissented. De Laurentiis threatened to sue Cronenberg for quitting, but was placated by Cronenberg agreeing to work with him on a different film at a later date. A few years later, De Laurentiis actually offered Cronenberg the opportunity to make Total Recall as he wanted to, but Cronenberg was not interested anymore and just did not want to argue with Shusett again.
Sure.
Apparently there was very bad blood between the two. Problems with finalizing the script and the high budget continued to stall Total Recall for the next few years. In 1987, De Laurentiis again considered hiring Richard Rush as director, but De Laurentiis disliked the finale featuring a breathable atmosphere on Mars, while Rush supported the idea. De Laurentiis accepted he was wrong after hiring director Bruce Beresford, who also supported the ending. Beresford had just come off directing Crimes of the Heart in 1986 for De Laurentiis. The film starred Diane Keaton, Jessica Lange, Sissy Spacek, and Sam Shepard. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards.
Yeah, it was a nice little film.
I want to say I've seen it. I don't remember. Around this time, writer Gary Goldman was offered an opportunity to refine the script, but he turned it down to focus on his own project called Warrior that he was working on alongside director Paul Verhoeven at Warner Brothers Pictures. You remember Goldman wrote Big Trouble in Little China in 1986.
Did Warrior ever come out?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe it ever
Bad
happened.
choice then.
Yeah. Beresford began preparations for a version of Total Recall described by Shusett as less gritty and more Spielbergian in tone, and Patrick Swayze was cast as Quaid.
Yeah. Pain don't hurt.
This is, it's around that time when he was starting to become an action star.
Yeah.
Pain don't hurt unless you're not breathing on the surface of Mars.
Yeah, I would have liked to see his bug-eyed. There you go.
Set construction was underway in Australia when the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group filed for bankruptcy in 1988. Approximately 80 crew were fired, and the sets had to be destroyed. By this point, the project had already accrued $8 million in pre-production costs and $6 million in turnaround costs, a process allowing other studios to purchase the idea.
Yeah.
I can't imagine spending $14 million on something and literally having nothing.
You write it off.
Yeah, well, I'm sure.
Losses, baby.
I'm guessing this is probably part of the reason why the De Laurentiis Group went bankrupt.
Well, they had a lot of... You don't remember. The De Laurentiis
They did a
Group
lot,
is
I know.
Everything.
Yeah,
They were spread very thin.
Yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger became aware of Total Recall in the mid-1980s, either during filming of Commando in 1985 or Raw Deal in 1986.
I am very aware of Total Recall.
Yes.
That's what he said to Governor Jesse Ventura
Oh, yeah.
when he was on
the
Predator.
Predator. Yeah. He liked the script and agreed to pursue it alongside producer Joel Silver while filming Predator in 87, but the project remained unrealized due to its prohibitive budget and because De Laurentiis did not think Schwarzenegger was right for the lead role.
I just don't think he's right.
Following DEG's bankruptcy, Schwarzenegger convinced Andrew Vajna and Mario Kassar, co-owners of the independent film studio Carolco Pictures, with whom he had made Red Heat in 1988, to purchase the rights for $3 million, including pre-production costs. Schwarzenegger wanted to star in the film pending rewrites to his satisfaction, and his fame and international appeal justified the studio investing the necessary budget.
You know why I love Arnold? Because I think he, more than anyone else ever, loves being a movie star.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah.
that, it's in fact, like The Rock seems everything is calculated
Yeah.
to maximize
Yeah.
his star power. It just doesn't, it seems kind of phony to me. It just seems manufactured.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy and he's super popular
do-
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he just, with his cigar, he just seems like he just revels in it.
Yeah.
And his joy of being a movie star makes him so lovable. It's
Oh,
not
yeah,
like a
I agree.
narcissistic thing.
No.
It's just that it's like, and enjoying the fame, you know, so few people get to that level of stardom. And so many people are just like, I hate it. You know, oh, it's just such a burden on my life and I hate it. But he just leaned in and was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. This country is the greatest country in the world. Look at me. You know, and he was like the immigrant story for the longest time. You know, came with nothing and created, you know, so I mean, say what you will about Arnie. You gotta respect him for just being so good at being a movie star.
Yeah. I mean, this is a man that was willing... Granted, I mean, he was getting older, but he was willing to walk away to play politics. Like, I mean, and he went whole hog into that, too. Like, he's a fascinating individual.
Yeah, well, anything that he's ever done, he's been successful at.
Yes.
And not because of luck or anything, but mostly because of his work ethic.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be a bodybuilder like that and be a lazy boy.
No,
you know?
no, you cannot.
You can't. I mean, he started right after the earthquake. He started like a brick business.
Oh,
out
really?
Here and made a ton of money. I mean, he was an opportunist who made his money and then was always looking ahead to the next thing.
Yeah.
And that's why he's just such a successful guy, such a fascinating guy.
He is.
You know, he's got his foibles like all of us, but he's
human.
also, you know, he's just a big, glug who just likes attention and likes being a movie star.
He is enjoying life.
Exactly.
Sure.
He seems to really enjoy Hollywood, and it's
yeah.
rare to see somebody enjoy it that much.
It's funny because he gets that, like, there's bad things, but he's just kind of like, it's fine. The positive outweighs the bad. Let's focus on the positive. Carol Co. completed its acquisition of the majority of DEG's business and assets in April of 1989. Schwarzenegger was given substantial influence over the project. He retained Shusett as a screenwriter and co-producer alongside producer Buzz Feitshans, and oversaw script revisions, casting decisions, and set construction.
Ooh, Shusett and Feitshans. Sounds like Dragon Ball Z characters or something.
Schwarzenegger described himself as effectively an executive producer without the responsibility, but he involved himself heavily because he wanted the project to work.
I want this project to work.
He received a $10 to $11 million salary plus 15% of the film's profits.
Yeah, jeepers creeps, man.
That is a lot. Schwarzenegger hired Verhoeven as the director after being impressed by his science fiction film RoboCop in 1987, for which Schwarzenegger had been considered in the lead role.
Stop. I'm a RoboCop.
I didn't know this, and it surprised me because it would be a very different movie.
Yes, it would. I am a RoboCop.
I do not need a gun. I'm just going to punch you.
Yes, give me my mush. I want to eat my mush now.
Verhoeven had previously been courted by Shusett to direct the film based on his work on Soldier of Orange from 1977, but declined then because he did not like science fiction. Ironically. Okay. He apparently changed his mind 10 years later.
Yeah.
Even so, Verhoeven accepted Schwarzenegger's offer after reading the Mars Hotel scene where Dr. Edgemar attempts to convince Quaid he is still on Earth. It was his favorite scene and convinced him to do it.
It's a great scene.
Oh, yeah. Verhoeven had wanted to avoid special effects heavy films after RoboCop and said that he did not realize how much effects work would be involved.
Did you read the script, buddy? Half of the movie is on Mars. Okay?
Verhoeven requested Goldman be brought in to help with rewrites, as well as some core personnel from RoboCop, including cinematographer Yost Vacano, production designer William Sandell, and special effects artist Rob Bottin. By this point, approximately 30 drafts had been completed, credited to a combination of Shusett and either O'Bannon, John Pavel, or Stephen Pressfield, among others.
It's just got to lose all meaning at some point.
Oh, that's just it. I don't know.
I mean, 30 drafts is it's like processed food, baby.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Verhoeven read each draft and highlighted parts of those he wanted Goldman to use. Goldman had little knowledge of Dick's work, but tried to respect the source material and work of previous screenwriters. He considered the second half of the film a concession to traditional Hollywood narratives, and so retained most of the structure from Beresford's shooting script.
Okay.
Because the creative team wanted to commence soon, Goldman believed he did not have the freedom to make substantial changes to the script and focused on refining the existing content and making the scientific aspects more realistic.
Yeah.
Verhoeven and Schwarzenegger agreed that everything after Dr. Edgemar's visit to Quaid on Mars was not working.
Look, this isn't working.
Verhoeven wanted a significant change to indicate that Edgemar could be telling the truth, and Quaid is actually having a mental breakdown on Earth. Goldman rewrote the script to make it possible for the film to be viewed as both reality and fantasy. He also made Hauser an ally to Cohagen, clearly defining Quaid and Hauser as separate identities. Goldman believed that making Hauser evil would better justify Quaid not returning to his original personality. It would also explain why Hauser becomes Quaid to conceal his intentions from the psychic mutants. Goldman made the Benny character a villain because he believed African Americans were typically typecast as good characters, and the reveal would be surprising.
It was good. It was good. Benny, that whole bit was a nice twist.
It's so funny because afterwards you realize just how greasy and gross he is.
Yeah.
But he seems like he's helping them. Yeah. The script also had to be revised to match Schwarzenegger's action hero public image, although Goldman tried to make it less comical than some of the actor's previous films. The meek clerk Quayle was renamed Quaid to avoid referencing then Vice President Dan Quayle, and became a muscle-bound construction worker, while fight scenes were rewritten to include more feats of strength and less martial arts or running.
It's all him bashing dudes' heads together and stuff and breaking necks.
So much punching.
Oh.
And yeah, just like he breaks 3 necks in like 4 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay. Second unit director and stunt coordinator Vic Armstrong, among other stunt people who had worked with Schwarzenegger on Conan the Barbarian in 1982 and Red Sonja in 1985, said that they knew what he could do physically without looking silly. Schwarzenegger also wanted more creative methods to dispatch Quaid's foes because he had been criticized for an over-reliance on guns to kill people in films like Commando.
Well, they still had quite a few guns in this.
They did. A lot of random people getting shot.
Oh, my God. When he's on the escalator
poor
and
man.
just grabs the poor doop-de-doo, I'm going to work. Oh, honey, I'll see you tonight. I can't believe it's our anniversary. 7 years. The best years of my life. I'm just going to run to the mall and pick up some champagne for us. There's this big guy behind. Oh, my God. He must have been shot 1,000 times. He just kept whipping from side to side and using this poor bullet sponge.
And then he threw him down the escalator.
No. He throws him down in front of him, and then everybody steps on him. There's shots
he throws him behind him. He's stepping on the bad guys.
No, they step on the guy that gets...
All right, we'll watch that scene again.
Oh, I did, because I was like, they stepped on him.
Yeah.
Insult to injury.
Care. I mean, it's part of the fact that no one in power cared about anybody else in this.
Yeah. Mars was a lawless place, baby.
It was. Well, actually, that all took place on Earth.
Did it?
Yes. It was all before he went to Mars.
That stuff was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They chased him down. It's when she was arguing. They were in the thing, and she's like... Sharon Stone does the whole, like, you can do all the kinky stuff with me now. And then they're in the back running up, and he chases him down. He lives above the subway, and then it's just random people. The best part, if you have a chance, listen to the commentary on the DVD that came out in, like, 2000. Because it's Paul Verhoeven and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Schwarzenegger just repeating what's happening on screen.
Look, I'm running up the escalator. Watch this. I grab this guy, and I use him as a shield. Oh, that's funny, right?
Literally.
Okay, look, I'm wearing a green jacket. Okay, we got it at LL Bean. It was we had 6 of them.
It's so funny, and it's so hard because Paul Verhoeven has a really thick accent too, and it is really hard to understand them through most of it. Anyway, it's one of my favorite commentaries of all time.
I could not breathe here. It was because it was Mars. I held my breath. It was method acting.
They didn't actually use special effects. That was his eyes actually popping out.
Little people know that I can bulge my eyes out to make them look like they're going to pop.
It's like flexing.
Yes, I have very, very defined eye muscles. Look. Gross.
So gross. After Goldman's first rewrite, he discussed it with Verhoeven, Schwarzenegger, Shusett, Vanya, and Kassar.
It's like the 7 dwarves. Yeah, Verhoeven, Schwarzenegger, Shusett, Vanya, and Kassar.
It sounds like the from Running Man when they talk about the 3 guys that win. It's like listing those guys. Yeah. Schwarzenegger and Shusett believed the climax lacked emotion, which was an intentional choice by Verhoeven, who did not take the Martian rebel plot very seriously and prioritized the intellectual aspects of the narrative. To appease Schwarzenegger, Goldman conceived of Cohaagen shutting off the oxygen to the mutants in Venusville.
Yeah, but they still were kind of an afterthought.
I know, yeah. They did not seem very, like when they were finally like, hey, we gotta go save everybody, they're just kind of like, oh, do-do-do-do.
All right.
If we make it in time. It's like, okay. After nearly 16 years in development, 7 directors, 4 co-writers, and 40 script drafts,
good Lord,
Total Recall finally went into production. Verhoeven chose Michael Ironside to portray Cohaagen's henchman Richter. One of his first roles was as evil telepath Daryl Revok in Scanners in 1981, directed by David Cronenberg.
Oh, he was so good. He was so good.
So good.
I love Michael Ironside.
No, he's fantastic. His breakthrough role was as cynical anti-hero Ham Tyler in the television miniseries V, The Final Battle in 1983.
Call me Ham.
Ham Tyler. And its following 19-episode series in 1984, which is one of my favorite things of all time.
It's great.
Ironside had previously auditioned for the lead in RoboCop, and Verhoeven had also offered him the role of antagonist Clarence Boddicker, which he turned down because he did not want to portray another psychopath character following his role in Extreme Prejudice in 1987.
Well, he came back for...
Lo and behold, Ironside said he considered Richter more of a sociopath who had personal ambitions and covets Cohaagen's position. And I get that. Watching it again, I totally see the arc he was doing with Richter.
I don't know. He seemed more of a toady who his motivations were revenge for Sharon Stone's death.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but once the best part is that once they capture him, and at the end he's just like, "All right, hey guys," he becomes like Toadie's just like, "All right, we're good. Yeah, let's go party."
Yeah. Except he loses his arms.
Oh my god, it's so messed up. Turning down a role in RoboCop in a separate film had created the impression that Ironside was difficult to work with, and so he had to complete an audition before being offered the role in Total Recall. In it, he had an emotional breakdown leading him to lying on the floor crying as Verhoeven moved in for a close-up shot. Schwarzenegger believed Ironside's physical presence made him a credible threat to his portrayal of Quaid.
Yeah, he's great.
He's fantastic. During production, Schwarzenegger noticed that Ironside was constantly on the phone between takes.
Yeah. Why are you always on the phone between takes?
When Arnie broached the subject with him, he was told that he was phoning his sister and that she was currently suffering from cancer.
Oh, my bad.
Arnold immediately brought Michael to his trailer, and they had an hour-long three-way conversation with Ironside's sister about what exercises she should do and what kind of food she should be eating. Ironside has never forgotten Schwarzenegger's kindness, and neither has his sister.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's very nice of him.
Yeah. Ironside can most recently be seen in the Hulu series The Dropout about Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos.
Elizabeth Holmes. Have you ever heard her speak?
No.
She has the weirdest. Hey, this is Theranos. She kind of sounds a little bit like our old pal, Colonel Wilma Deering.
Colonel Wilma Deering?
But yeah, and it's like a total put on voice. But she's like, she created this. There's some really good documentaries about her, and there's an interesting series about her with Amanda Seyfried, I think.
Yeah, that's The Dropout. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'd like to check it out. 'Cause it's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
Because it's like it was such a huge scam.
Right. Yeah. A huge
this
scandal.
blood test thing that just.
I need to see the documentary, and I'm curious about The Dropout with Amanda Seyfried because I like Amanda Seyfried, but it's either gonna be one or the other, and I'd rather watch the documentary.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get more out of it.
The female leads, Rachel Ticotin and Sharon Stone, were chosen in part for their athleticism, which was needed for the physically demanding roles. Stone said that her physically formidable character resulted in the cast and crew treating her like she was
one of the guys.
And that Ironside
was the one guy who never forgot I was a woman. When I was thrown down, he would help me up.
Aw. Ironside's a nice guy.
Get up, lady. You're wasting time.
Help me up by just yelling at me.
Get up!
Sharon Stone started her career modeling in television commercials and print advertisements. Stone made her film debut as an extra in Woody Allen's dramedy Stardust Memories in 1980 and played her first speaking part in Wes Craven's horror film Deadly Blessing in 1981.
She was also in Magnum P.I.
Yeah.
Playing twins.
Oh, she did? Oh, nice.
Oh, it's a great episode.
Nice.
It's a great episode. It's psychologically strange.
Ooh.
It's cool. She's really good in it.
Nice. She's a great actress. She was great in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just before Total Recall, she had previously appeared in Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol as a reporter in 1987, Cold Steel in 1987, starring Brad Davis, Jonathan Banks, and Adam Ant. Above the Law in 1988, starring Steven Seagal with a script from Ronald Shusett.
I'm above the law.
I can't believe there was a time in America where Steven Seagal was an action star.
I love Steven Seagal movies. I love them. They're my guilty pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
This friend of mine and I, Allie, she and I used to watch those all the time. I wanted to do like a little series where I played a character. He's so fascinating to me. His movies are so like of a time.
Yeah.
And they're perfect.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and he's turned into such a weirdo. He's like a Russian.
Oh, he's super weird.
Yeah.
He was always weird.
He just my friend.
He hit the time he hit Hollywood at the right time.
Yeah.
And then he was out.
Well, ponytail. Oh, slappy slap ponytail. That's what I call him.
Slappy slap.
Kick. I can't raise my leg above my knee.
Sharon Stone also appeared in Action Jackson in 1988, starring Carl Weathers, Vanity, and Craig T. Nelson.
That's a great underrated movie, by the way.
100% agree.
It is a really fun movie.
Love that movie. Schwarzenegger was so impressed by how much dedication Sharon Stone had in training for her character role that he even referred to her as the female Terminator.
Ah, look, it's the female Terminator. Here she comes. Ha 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 ha. Look at you. Have a cigar. Okay, jeez.
She was inducted into the Stunt Woman Association as an honorary member.
Nice.
To coincide with the movie's release, Sharon Stone posed nude for Playboy magazine, showing off the buff body she developed in preparation for the movie. Stone pumped iron and learned taekwondo.
You know, Playboy doesn't have naked ladies anymore.
They don't do the nudity at all?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just like a whatever.
I haven't looked at a Playboy in a long time.
It's so weird to think about times when, celebrities would pose in Playboy as promotion for their project.
This is the thing. That's the thing. Is that it's like, oh, like that was just another promotional tool, and she was, I am willing to do it. Let's do it. Stone would make a huge splash working with Verhoeven on 1992's Basic Instinct.
Yep.
She can most recently be seen in the film Beauty, released in 2022, now available on Netflix, and on TV in Murderville, also on Netflix, and in 3 episodes of The Flight Attendant on HBO Max.
Her episode of Murderville. Murderville's really a funny show. It's Will Arnett plays this cop, and it's all improvised, and they bring in somebody to be his new rookie partner.
People that are not good at improvising.
And they don't know any of the story or anything going forward. But she was great.
Yeah.
She was really funny. Conan O'Brien was on it. He was really funny.
I watched his episode. It was fun.
But it was fun seeing Sharon Stone being playful and play along.
You just have to play along. But yeah, she's great. I think she's a
game.
fantastic actor.
She's been around for a long time. And she's a survivor. And she's good.
Rachel Ticotin made her film debut as a dancer in the film King of the Gypsies in 1978, starring Eric Roberts in his film debut, Sterling Hayden, Shelley Winters, Susan Sarandon, Brooke Shields, Annette O'Toole, and Judd Hirsch. I've never heard of this movie before.
Judd Hirsch.
I've heard of Judd Hirsch.
Yeah, he was in Taxi, and he was Jeff Goldblum's dad.
Well, this is what I don't understand. I know all these actors, and I've never heard of this movie.
Yeah, I think I've seen it.
During this period, Ticotin received an on-screen credit as a production assistant on Brian De Palma's Dressed to Kill in 1980. Her first big break came when working as a production assistant alongside her brother David in 1981. She was given a significant role as Isabella, Paul Newman's love interest in the movie Fort Apache, The Bronx.
Yeah, she's a little young for Paul Newman.
Yeah. She appeared in Critical Condition in 1987, starring Richard Pryor. She can most recently be seen in the 2020 movie Superintelligence.
Huh.
Michael Champion was cast as Helm, Richter's right-hand man. Champion started his career as a musician. He co-wrote 4 songs on Meatloaf's debut album Stoney and Meatloaf in 1971, as well as playing the harmonica on a track.
Your favorite instrument? You want me to grab my harmonica?
No,
play it for you.
Absolutely not. He made his feature film debut in 1979 with When a Stranger Calls. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
He made appearances in 10 in 1979, History of the World Part 1 in 1981, Beverly Hills Cop in 1984, and Pink Cadillac, starring Clint Eastwood in 1989. He went on to guest star in a ton of TV shows before passing away in June of 2021.
Oh.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite characters in this movie.
Yeah, he's great.
He's just so goofy, and it's this there, and then they fire.
Yeah.
There. It's like he can suddenly teleport 15 feet away.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got cool hair.
He does. He's awesome. Verhoeven's daughters were responsible for casting Benny, picking Mel Johnson Jr.'s screen test from the available options.
What's all with these daughters picking everybody?
I just
Wasn't
wonder.
it? Was Craven's daughters that picked Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. He was beautiful.
It's just weird. I mean, what was it about?
I don't know. Mel Johnson Jr.? I don't know. Johnson Jr. got his start on Broadway with musicals On the 20th Century and Eubie in 1979.
Nice.
Eubie would be filmed as a TV special where he reprised his role. He would mostly stick to Broadway through the 80s. He recounted having just finished filming a horrible black exploitation film when he read the Total Recall script, and after seeing Benny described as a
black jivester,
he threw the script across the room.
Yeah, I don't blame him. People did not know how to describe people with dignity back then.
It's so bad. Nonetheless, he eventually read it through and decided to audition because he believed the character was more fully realized, saying,
"This guy is cold and calculating, and the story was intriguing."
He continued to act on Broadway and most recently can be seen in episodes of Jessica Jones.
Great. I'm glad he's still working.
Yeah.
He was really good.
He's so good in this. Yeah.
When he was like, when that switch, when they get into that, they're putting on their little suits, they're going to go out, and he closes the door, and that switch where he's like, it's bad news, baby.
Immediately, yeah.
He was so good.
Oh, he's brilliant. He was so convincing.
Gross mutant arm.
Yeah. Very weird mutant arm. Ronnie Cox had previously worked with Verhoeven on RoboCop and traded on the actor's history of playing good-natured characters to make his villainous turn more impactful.
Oh, he was so good.
RoboCop was amazing. He was so good in RoboCop.
Well, he was so good in this, too.
Yeah.
Ronnie Cox
totally.
Playing a villain. My favorite role of his, I think, is probably Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
The cop series is the police chief.
Yeah.
But, or was he the chief? I don't know.
Yeah, or captain or something.
Yeah,
he was.
Anyway, because he's such a great character, and he believes. The thing about that is, it's about cops and believing cops, and
right.
He didn't get caught up in the BS of well, in wrong jurisdiction. And I don't believe you and this and that. He's it was such a good character, and he plays it so well. And this one too, I just think he's having a ball.
Oh, yeah.
Playing the villain, with his slick back hair. And
it's just being so greasy and gross and just like,
you can just tell he's just dripping in it and loves it.
As an actor, Cox made his debut in the 1972 film Deliverance.
Ding, 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 ding.
In one scene, he plays the instrumental dueling banjos on his guitar with a banjo-playing mountain boy played by child actor Billy Redden. It's such a great scene.
Yeah, it is.
He was hired for the role because he could play the guitar.
That is such a good movie, too.
Oh, great movie.
Saw it way too young.
Yes.
Learned about certain things I probably shouldn't have known about. It scared me. It was just so...
reference, I think one of our old stepdad shows, Jim goes into this story quite detailed.
Oh, my God,
please find that.
Yeah, my stepdad.
Yeah.
Let me watch a lot of movies when I probably shouldn't.
It's a great story.
Ooh.
Cox appeared on most people's radars in 1984, appearing in Beverly Hills Cop. In 1989, he appeared as the president in Martian Goes Home, starring Randy Quaid.
Yeah, Randy Quaid.
I was waiting for you to... That's your favorite movie of all time.
Martians Go Home. I don't remember that movie.
Oh, really? It's bad. It's not good.
Go home, Martians.
It's not good.
Go home.
It was definitely Randy Quaid trying to capitalize on the vacation stuff, and it just did not work.
Well, Randy Quaid made a career playing a bunch of weirdos, and then just turned into the weirdest man in the world.
Stopped acting.
Yeah, and just like he and his wife just do weird things now.
Yeah,
sad.
Yeah. Ronnie Cox in 1990 appeared in Loose Cannons, written by Richard Matheson, Richard Christian Matheson, and Bob Clark, who also directed the film. The film stars Gene Hackman, Dan Aykroyd, and Dom DeLuise.
Yeah, it's a weird movie.
I liked this movie a lot. I think it was just the right age when it came out.
Yeah. Dan Aykroyd plays a guy with multiple personalities.
Yeah. He's good.
A cop.
He's really good in it.
And he has to, it's good. Yeah, it's very good. And Gene Hackman plays a straight man. He's great. Dom DeLuise is just nuts.
Always amazing.
Yeah.
He also appeared in the awful 1990 film Captain America as the president. When the Marvel Entertainment Group was trying to hold the rights to Captain America, they made that movie, and it is really bad.
Wow.
Really bad. Describing his portrayal, Cox said that he did not employ method acting, but did try to understand how the character would feel and think and how he would react to situations, and that would determine his performance.
In Captain America or in Total Recall?
No, in general.
Oh, okay.
I think he's just describing acting. Yeah. Just like, okay, that is literally acting. All right.
Well, he's good at it.
Oh, he is. The character's hairstyle came about after Cox's hair was slicked back in order to make a face mold for special effects purposes. Cox knew it was the right look and convinced Verhoeven to reshoot 2 days of Cox's scenes with the new style.
Look at this. It's awesome. Look at my hair. It's so great. We got to shoot those 2 days over. I don't know what his accent is, but
Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah,
I think he's Danish, if I remember right. I don't know. I don't even know how to. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to attempt it. I don't want to.
No.
Alienate our Danish fans.
No, or one fan in Daneland. Yeah.
Daneland.
Yeah. Already did. Isolated him. Sorry. Cox can most recently be seen in Being the Ricardos, the film about Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, and in Star Trek Prodigy, the animated TV series, doing voiceover. Cox is also an accomplished singer and songwriter, having released 11 albums, the most recent being the 2020 release, Ronnie Cox, Live from the Kitchen Sink.
Yeah, he just sat in his kitchen sink with a guitar.
I believe he filmed this after lockdown, or he recorded after lockdown.
Sitting in his sink.
Yeah. His wife, Mary, died in 2006, 50 years to the day after their first date.
She just had enough of him.
Cox often talks about her during his music performances.
Oh, that's sad. I can't imagine, being with somebody for 50 years and then not having them. It would be like losing an appendage or something.
It would be, yeah. That would be a lot. And it's been, 16 years since then? Like, that's a long time to be without. Yeah. That's a lot. Marshall Bell was cast as George with the mutant leader Kuato sticking out of his belly.
Yeah.
Bell's movie debut was in the role as Ronsky in Alan Parker's drama Birdie in 1984.
Nice.
He appeared as Gordy's grieving father in the adventure drama Stand By Me in 1986 and as a hitman in Twins in 1988.
Get out of his room. Wrong boy died. Jesus.
He was very convincing in Stand By Me.
He was great.
When Marshall Bell auditioned for the role, the script did not explain the relationship between George and Kuato, and he was confused as to why George had so few lines. Although voice actors were considered for Kuato, Verhoeven decided to use Bell. I had no idea that was him. I always was convinced it was somebody else.
Yes, because he sounds... It's just so off-putting because it's a little baby.
Yeah.
Quaid, look at me. Grab my greasy little hands, Quaid.
Hold my hands.
And I will show your future.
15 puppeteers worked the character, but the makeup was essentially a chest plate worn by Bell. According to Paul Verhoeven, the makeup took 6 hours to build on Bell. Verhoeven said that special makeup effects designer Rob Bottin had made the Kuato puppet look so real that he was approached by 2 people on the street asking if Bell was a real freak or possibly a semi-born Siamese twin.
Hey, was that guy a real freak?
I don't understand why he was wearing it on the street.
No, I think people came up to him.
Go get a candy bar.
Probably.
I mean, they shot all this in Mexico, so it's
but
possible.
I think they came up to him on the street after the movie came out. Probably.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That makes
after
so much more
seeing
sense.
It, yeah, yeah. With him just like going to the bodega.
He's like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna go get the Snickers bar. I'll be back."
Was that your Siamese twin?
Roy Brocksmith was cast as Dr. Edgemar. He started his career acting on Broadway. Brocksmith made his acting debut in 1978 with The Squeeze, also known as The Ripoff, directed by Antonio Margaretti, starring Lee Van Cleef. He also appeared in King of the Gypsies in 1978.
Nice.
Another person in that movie that I know of that I have never seen. He appeared in Scrooged in 1988, Martians Go Home with Randy Quaid.
Nice.
Tango and Cash in 1989.
Tango and Cash.
Oh, man, I cannot wait to cover that.
Oh, yeah.
He made a ton of guest appearances in TV shows. Roy Brocksmith is everywhere. He's one of those actors that you're just like, you see him and you're like, oh, I don't know who that guy is. Verhoeven based the appearance and physicality of Brocksmith's Dr. Edgemar on the central scientist character portrayed by Paul Newman in Alfred Hitchcock's 1966 thriller Torn Curtain.
Yeah.
He wanted an actor who looked
naive and strange and a bit weird.
Brocksmith is in my favorite scene in Total Recall, where he essentially lays out the entirety of the third act to Quaid.
Oh, yeah.
He says that if Quaid kills him,
the walls of reality will come crashing down.
Moments after Quaid shoots Edgemar, the walls of the apartment literally crash down.
Yeah.
He says that Quaid will believe himself the savior of the resistance, only to discover that he's in fact Cohagen's bosom buddy, which is exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And he says that he will have visions of an alien civilization, which Quaid experiences during the mind meld with Kuato.
Oh, yeah.
If a viewer believes the whole film is a dream, then Edgemar's prediction that Quaid will end up being lobotomized is fulfilled in the fade to white, which ends the movie.
Yeah, but he died with a good memory in his mind.
I honestly, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I honestly, after watching it again, I don't know. I can't decide if it was real or not. Unfortunately, Brocksmith passed at the age of 56 in 2001 from complications with diabetes.
Yeah, that's sad.
Which also means that in 2001, he was only in his 40s when he did this. He seems to be much older in this movie.
Well, he didn't take great care of himself, I don't think.
No. Principal photography began filming between April and May in 1989. Filmed almost entirely in sequence, rare in the movie industry. The production took place over 20 weeks. The initial budget for Total Recall was reported as $30 million, but the final budget is reported as being between $48 and $80 million.
It's a big spread.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure 80 is probably going to be, the high end is going to be better. Total Recall was filmed almost entirely on sets at Estudios Churubusco in Mexico City, Mexico, where 43 cast and up to 500 crew members worked across 45 sets on 10 sound stages.
That's a lot of sets.
They really used a lot of that $80 million.
Yeah, it did. It showed up on screen.
It definitely. The Earth train station was filmed in the Mexico City Metro, and many exterior Mars scenes took place in the Valley of Fire State Park in Overton, Nevada. Shusett and Goldman were present on set, providing additional rewrites where necessary. Goldman estimated that the script was changed
less than 1%.
After 40 drafts, that's good news. Verhoeven sometimes required up to 20 takes of scenes, but remained faithful to the script and discouraged improvisation.
Wow.
Even so, some scenes, such as Benny's death, lack sufficient detail, and in these cases, dialogue was mostly improvised.
Yeah.
Like him screaming, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
Ouch! Ouch, that hurts!
I'm sorry, that's not in the script. We can't have that. You have to be stock still.
I believed it, though. Let's keep it.
Although Verhoeven had been adamant he did not want a second unit director, having fired 3 of them on RoboCop.
Control freak.
Yeah. Vic Armstrong ended up filming 1,200 different setups in all of the fight scenes.
Okay.
Verhoeven was very happy with his work.
Good.
Armstrong's first scene was filming Schwarzenegger drilling cement. Filming was beset by injuries and illness.
Yeah, there was a lot of...
It was bad. Yeah. Almost everyone involved suffered from dust inhalation on set.
They filmed on Mars.
Food poisoning and gastroenteritis from the local Mexican cuisine was also a problem, except for Shusett and Schwarzenegger, who had his food brought from the United States after a negative experience while filming Predator in Mexico.
Well, he also has a very specific diet.
Yeah.
You know, it's like all turkey breasts and potatoes and shit.
The illness compounded the difficulties. Lycia Naff had filming her scenes as the 3-breasted prostitute. She said she felt like crying because even though the breasts were artificial, she felt exposed in front of the cast and crew.
I get it.
Yeah. Schwarzenegger cut his wrist while smashing a train window after an explosive designed to pre-detonate the glass failed. His injuries were patched up and concealed by his jacket. He also incurred other minor cuts and broken fingers.
Gross.
Yeah. Ironside cracked his sternum and separated 2 ribs after running into Michael Champion, who was holding an Uzi during the pursuit of Quaid and Melina in a Martian hotel.
That's just bad.
Bad stunt coordination?
Well, yes, exactly. That's just not... That's just rushing stuff because that stuff shouldn't happen.
No. Filming had to be paused while he recovered as Richter was involved in most of the remaining scenes. After 3 weeks, a producer asked that he return to filming, but they could not obtain insurance unless Ironside performed 50 push-ups.
So weirdly arbitrary.
Yeah.
Well, like, what if he couldn't do 50 push-ups to begin with? What if he just, I could only do 20?
I'm not good at the push-ups. Despite the doctor's advice, he attempted the feat and re-injured himself.
Of course he did.
After 30 push-ups, the doctor said it was sufficient.
That's enough. Stop crying.
Ironside's first scene on his return involved him fighting Schwarzenegger on an elevator, but he struggled to lift his arm. The doctor had Oakland Raiders quarterback Jim Plunkett drop off a brace built for his own injury, which held Ironside's chest in a stable position.
And both of his arms got ripped off.
Well, I mean, eventually.
Yeah, that's a bad injury.
Ironside filmed his scene over the remainder of the day, only being hit once accidentally by Schwarzenegger, who was cautious of his condition. Schwarzenegger did not want to hurt him, obviously.
Well, yeah, good. Nice guy.
A separate fight between Stone and Takotin was arranged to normally feature one of the actresses and one stunt person because padding cannot be concealed under their outfits. Verhoeven wanted the actresses to perform the fight stunts themselves, but Armstrong insisted on using a stunt person. Schwarzenegger was known for his pranks on the set, such as arranging styrofoam snowball fights and water pistol battles during dinners, as well as booking parties to reward the crew for the 6-day working weeks and practical stunts.
Here comes another one of Arnie's practical jokes. Those the styrofoam snowballs again? All right.
Here they come.
I guess we're going to be here for another hour.
The score was orchestrated by Jerry Goldsmith. The producers intended to have him record the score in Munich because the pay for musicians there was lower, but the players were unfamiliar with Goldsmith's style and the resulting score was disappointing.
Oh.
Instead, Goldsmith was given the funding necessary to record the score in London with the National Philharmonic Orchestra, who were more fitting to Goldsmith's musical intentions with brass and string instruments combined with electronic sounds. The recording was put on hiatus for 3 months so Verhoeven could have time to edit the special effects, during which Goldsmith recorded the score for Gremlins 2, the new batch, before returning to finish his work on Total Recall.
That's awesome.
I can just imagine. Yeah, I'm just going to do this other little project. It's all good. Goldsmith also performed the commercial jingles and elevator music heard in the film, so he was responsible for Recall, Recall, Recall. The score is considered by many to be Goldsmith's best work. Okay. The opening of it is very reminiscent of Terminator.
Yeah.
Like it's the way the music is just kind of jarring and like.
It's got that bump, bump, bump.
Yeah. Initially scheduled for release on June 15th, Total Recall's post-production schedule was rushed to move the date forward 2 weeks to avoid competition, particularly from Dick Tracy due to its cast of popular stars. Yeah. Which it's a great movie. Mm-hmm.
It's a shame because there are a lot of really great stars in that, and it was an interesting movie. It just didn't quite do it.
Yeah, interesting is the best word for it. It was a interesting failure. Yeah. Editor Frank J. Urosti worked overtime to complete Total Recall's 113-minute cut early. This meant there was no time to test screen the film, which Verhoeven and Goldman believed worked against the finished product, including its third act.
It's funny. Most people don't like doing test screenings.
I still don't think they were really convinced the third act was going to work, even after they fucking edited the whole thing. The film also had to be trimmed to remove violent content and gore, including a longer version of Benny's death to avoid an X rating, which would have restricted attendance to audience members over the age of 17. It ultimately received an R rating.
Yeah?
Yeah. In U.S. and Canada, Total Recall was released on June 1st, 1990 in 2,060 theaters. It grossed $25.5 million and finished as the #1 film of the weekend. It eventually go on to gross $119.4 million. This figure made it the second highest grossing film of the summer, behind the surprise success of Ghost.
Patrick Swayze.
Oh, yeah. And the 7th highest grossing film of the year, behind The Hunt for Red October, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Pretty Woman, Dances with Wolves, Ghost, and Home Alone.
Really? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, huh?
Yeah, it was the 5th highest. That movie made a lot of money.
Interesting.
It was ridiculous. But yes, which is weird because I don't think about like Dances with Wolves and Pretty Woman as being like huge box office burners.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Dances with Wolves was juggernaut. That was just one of those things that everybody had to see.
I think it's because I was
a
young
huge fan
and
of
I
that
just
movie.
didn't care about the movie, so I just didn't pay attention to it.
Kicking bird. Kicking bird. Kicking bird. That's Mary, whatever her name is. She was so bad. No. Mary Steenburgen is a good actress.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I've only seen the movie once.
Yeah,
so,
it's enough.
Yeah.
It's enough times. He dances with wolves.
On its release, Total Recall received mixed reviews from critics who generally praised the production values and Schwarzenegger's performance, but criticized the violent content. Audience polls by CinemaScore reported moviegoers gave the film an average grade of A-.
Yeah, it was a real
is
crowd
good.
pleaser.
Yeah. It was a super entertaining movie.
Yes, it was very entertaining.
And there's enough weirdness in it and like questioning that people will want to watch it again.
Watching it again, it's just basically a bunch of people running around and shooting at each other in cool sets.
Not knowing who they are.
Yeah, it's a lot of
pretending to be
confusion and running
somebody
and
else.
shooting.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is that a lot of the quote-unquote sets, like the subway thing, it looks like a set, but it's not. That's the actual Mexico City subway.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy that it's just that weird, brutalist architecture. Yeah. At the 63rd Academy Awards in 1991, Total Recall won the award for Best Visual Effects.
They're a little rough these days, watching some of them, some of those shots.
Yeah.
The practical, the best effect in the thing is the Quato puppet.
Yeah. Well, instead, like some of the Tim or whatever with the weird clamshell
The makeup
face
stuff, yeah.
and,
There's some good makeup stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but like the arm, the Benny's arm was cool, and there's some good stuff in it.
Some stuff still works.
The worst stuff in it is apparent from the very beginning when he goes and sits down and changes she changes the TV to like the outdoor scene.
Yeah, the green screen stuff.
The green screen is so bad.
They did not key them well.
No, not at all. The film received further 2 nominations at the Academy Awards, Best Sound and Best Sound Effects Editing, which it did not win. A novelization of the film written by Piers Anthony and based on the script and Dick's original novel was released in 1990. It retains the original character name of Douglas Quayle. I find it very ironic that they had to novelize a movie that was based on a story. I still find it ridiculously idiotic they had to do that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, this just shows how much the movie changed from the original story. They couldn't promote it as like being, hey, this is the thing.
But he retained the name.
He did. I'm sure, in honor of Philip K. Dick. That same year, an action platformer video game, Total Recall, was released for the Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC, and Nintendo Entertainment System, and the Amiga and Atari ST computers.
I don't remember it.
I remember coming out. I don't think I ever played it. Total Recall's success led to development of a sequel. Goldman had optioned another of Dick's works, the 1956 novella The Minority Report, intending to direct it himself. Unable to make progress on that project, he and Shusett worked together on adapting the Minority Report into a Total Recall sequel in 1993, depicting Quaid as the head of an organization that uses mutants with precognition abilities to predict and stop crimes before they happen.
All right. How does he go from a construction worker to that?
It doesn't make any sense.
I took some night courses.
It doesn't, and it's like what they're going to call it, Total Recall 2? I mean, like, what is it? Just the whole thing just
Total Recalls. Because the mutants recall things.
He just writes it on the board with the $sign for the S. Yeah.
Oh, money.
Carol struggled to secure either funding or Schwarzenegger's interest to progress the project before its bankruptcy. The television rights to Total Recall were bought by DFL Entertainment for $1.2 million to develop a television series, Total Recall 2070, released in 1999.
Don't remember that.
Oh, I do. And it was bad.
Really?
It was not good. The show, set entirely on Earth, was not based on the film, and it was described by author David Hughes as closer to a Blade Runner adaptation. The whole thing was just a misstep. It was bad. In the interim, Shusett and Goldman had removed the Total Recall elements from their script to develop it as a standalone film, The Minority Report, in 2002, which was directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
The film rights to Total Recall were bought by Dimension Films for $3.15 million at Carolco's bankruptcy auction. The studio began development of a sequel, intending to bring back the principal cast, but not Paul Verhoeven to direct it again.
What?
Yeah. Development eventually ceased as a series of failed films had harmed Dimension financially, and the studio was unable to agree on a deal with Schwarzenegger. The rights to Total Recall were eventually purchased by Columbia Pictures, and a remake was announced in 2009. Released in 2012, the film, also called Total Recall, starred Colin Farrell, Bryan Cranston, Kate Beckinsale, and Jessica Biel, who I totally forgot that Bryan Cranston and Jessica Biel and Kate Beckinsale were in this movie.
Yeah.
Its plot follows elements of the 1990 film, but omits Mars entirely, taking place on a mostly uninhabitable Earth, which isn't even true. It's about them trying to drill. Did you see this?
I did. I don't remember it at all.
They're trying to drill, make a passageway between, where they're at in China.
Yeah.
There's a whole, the whole thing is just bad.
Poor Colin Farrell.
It was very not good, and the audience agreed.
Well, that was the time in the early 2000s. The remakes were garbage, man.
Oh, yeah.
And they were remaking really good films like Fright Night and Total Recall.
There were a few that were okay. Like the My Bloody Valentine remake I really liked.
Okay.
The Crazies remake was good, but you're right. I mean, for the most part, they were trying to replicate box office.
I love no disrespect to the Crazies, but the Crazies wasn't Total Recall. It didn't have that much, and the Crazies remake was great. And these are horror, horror remakes are inevitable.
Well, because this was also, I think it was kicked off by Ocean's 11, because the original movie did not do terribly well, and the remake did.
Yeah, because it was actually a good movie. The original has a really cool cast, but the movie sucks.
Yeah.
It is super dumb and boring.
The one thing is true in Hollywood, executives and people in marketing are lazy.
Sure.
And if they can piggyback on something that is already established and they don't have to do the work, they're going to do it.
But it's just, Total Recall is one of those movies that it's a crowd favorite. It's always going to be around. It's one of Arnie's biggest movies. It's not the Terminator, but it's one of his bigger movies.
It's huge. People love this movie.
And to remake it, I mean, it's the same thing like we talked about with Nightmare on Elm Street. They just kind of suck the fun out of it.
Yeah.
And the only thing I remember about the Total Recall remake is everybody wondering if there's going to be a 3-breasted mutant in it.
Yeah.
I don't remember if there was or wasn't.
I don't think so. I don't remember. I don't
think there were mutants in it.
No, it's not. It really felt like, because I love, Total Recall is one of my favorite sci-fi movies, and I love the movie so much, and when it was coming out, I was like, oh yeah, okay, sure. I like Colin Farrell, I'm curious to see. It was like they just wrote a completely different script and then slapped Total Recall on it.
Yeah, I think they wanted to make it more Minority Report than Total Recall.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work.
Yeah, it just wasn't good.
Did not work.
No, it just wasn't good. But, the movie was fantastic. Watching it again, it's so good. There's so many great elements to it.
It's such a cheese fest.
It is such a cheese.
I mean, that's a compliment. It's just a cheesy, fun, dopey movie with ridiculous effects. The end, where they get shoved out into the Martian wasteland, and we watch Ronnie Cox's face burst apart. And then Arnold and his lady friend are like, and their faces and their eyes are bursting. It looks like, those stress dolls?
Yeah.
Where and the eyes pop out?
Yeah, somebody's squeezing.
They made a stress doll of Arnold and Dakotan, and just somebody was squeezing them.
Squeeze.
Oh, don't squeeze too hard, because the eyes are going to pop. And then, of course, Ronnie Cox his whole face explodes.
I am 100% sure that they actually shot his face exploding, but they had to cut it.
Yeah.
And it was still going to be too gross.
It was gross. But then...
It was still gross.
So then the atmosphere gets created in 2 seconds, which is pretty miraculous.
A lot of oxygen flying in the air.
And then they're fine. Like, their eyes aren't even red.
No
there's
after effects.
Like, like a little blood trickling because their whole faces were
about to explode.
Yeah.
They should have been like bleeding blood or sweating blood and stuff.
But I mean, if this is like all in his mind, then everything's forgiven because it doesn't matter.
Little known fact, there actually was no special effects used in that scene with Takotin and Arnie. They actually just had PAs come in and push down on them to have their faces expand. Like the stress dolls. They were like, this is going to be much cheaper.
You're going to pop my eyeballs.
Push harder. Push harder.
Don't be afraid. I have very strong eye muscles.
So in the theme of our month of who's zooming who, I honestly don't know if it actually happened or not. Because this time watching it, and it always bugged me before, but this time I was really stuck on the fact that when he went to recall and asked for his perfect woman, a picture of Rachel Takotin shows up.
Yeah.
As like the generic, here's your generic person you're going to wine and dine while you're a secret agent. And yet there she is on Mars. So did it happen or not?
I don't know.
Why don't you know, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think it did happen because, that's Arnold.
I mean, I agree. I want to. 99% of me believes that yes, it was a real story that he went there and that all happened.
Well, the fact that they were going to make a sequel with his character means that it happened because if it didn't happen, then he had a psychotic break and died on the machine.
Yeah,
or at least went insane.
Right. That should be the sequel. It's just him in a loony bin, just screaming about how he's a secret agent. Man, I love this movie so much. There's so many great, and some of the special effects and stuff do not hold up, but it is the epitome. It's the ultimate 80s movie.
Yeah.
It came out in 1990.
Well, that's
it
the
is
thing.
So good.
I mean, we've talked about it. Movies that are at the beginning of a decade are of the last decade. Because they were made. I mean, it was technically made in the 80s.
Yeah.
So it's still an 80s movie. But it's got that bombastic, over-the-top action and tons of guns and tons of shooting.
Those guns are so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't read any research on the guns, but they all just are so weird. I don't understand.
They just had to make them more futuristic.
I guess.
But yeah, I mean, everybody's good in it, and everybody seems to be having fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's just a fun movie to sit down, hang out with friends, and my favorite thing about it. And granted, I think it came out at a time I was like 12 when it came out, and I think it came out at a time when I was really into sci-fi, and to me it was like reading a 50s sci-fi short story of like, oh yeah, like this is what happens, and like it has a great twist ending, and like the whole alien thing and everything. It's just such a fun movie. It
covers a lot of ground in a short amount of time, and it just keeps moving. Everybody's running. It's just running. They could have called it Running Man 2 because everybody's just running.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. Skip the remake.
Yeah.
But this is...
Yeah. Pretty much everything after this, just skip.
Yeah, exactly. But definitely watch it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And if you haven't seen it in a while, check it out again because I hadn't seen it in, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 years.
Nice.
And it was really fun to revisit it. And it just reminded me of just how delightful it was to watch Arnold movies back in the 80s and 90s at the top of his game. Whether it was this or Twins or
Running Man
or even Commando. I mean, all of his movies are fun, and he's a fun guy to watch. Predator.
Oh, Red Heat, all of them. Yeah. I mean, some are not as good as others.
No, but he's always game, and he's always in it to win it.
He is.
And it's cool to see him still working, and it's cool to see him still, coming out, and he still looks great for being in his 70s. And
I'm so happy that he's back in acting again. I missed him. Well, we'll be back next week. We got our final
my favorite
Who's Zooming Who movie.
Yeah.
The Thing.
Oh, baby. That is it is a perfect effing movie.
I am so excited to watch it again. I'm so excited to talk about it. It is such a good movie.
Oh, totally call. Watch it. I don't know. Oh, because we get
Great.
we get to do it. I can't even do it now.
No.
I'm too caught up in Arnold.
Yeah, no, don't lose Arnie.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Family Ties, already in progress.